You are listening to another AlwaysMoto production. The AlwaysMoto podcast with your host, David Hogan. This show contains information about injuries to riders competing in AMA Supercross, AMA Motocross, MXGP, Oz Pro MX, and other international moto events. The information discussed may be unsettling to some listeners. It might be incomplete or based on medical opinions due to riders tending to hide the details of their injuries. We are here to explain the information and increase injury understanding and visibility for the fans. There might be coarse language and the odd stuff up along the way. If any of this offends you, turn us off right now.
I'd like to remind you that he is not a doctor.
That's right, Moto fans, I'm not a doctor, but I am a physiotherapist, and this is episode 45 of the AlwaysMoto podcast. As always, I'm your host, David Hogan. This is an AlwaysMoto podcast, and we are in the depths of the clinic throwing strappy tape anywhere it will stick, and that's because this is an inspection episode. Yes, that's right. This is an AlwaysMoto inspection podcast. We're not doing the normal show on this episode. It's an inspection, and we are looking at the Slant Board guy, Slant Board. So let's jump into a quick intro here with the sponsors. It's still, the show is as always, is still brought to you by Polar Australia. Polar Australia has that incredible range of activity tracking and heart rate monitors, from their H10 chest strap and their top-of-the-line GPS multi-sport watch, the Polar Grit X Pro. Jump onto their link in the show notes and head straight over to their shop and get your heart rate tracked by the best products around for doing so, and that's the Polar Australia Polar products. All right, and thanks to Slant Board Guy. Don't forget, we've got the affiliate deal in place. After you listen to this inspection podcast, you'll want to get one of these boards, and you'll need to follow that link in the show notes or on our bio on our Instagram page, and use the discount code for 10% off, AlwaysMoto in lowercase. So make sure you use that and check it out. Or check out all the links available in the link in the show notes or on our Instagram bio. As always, we need some direct support for the show too. We have our merch. Our t-shirts are still available. We have them available in all sizes. Black shirts, AlwaysMoto logo. They are $25 plus postage and handling. Get in touch. Send us an email, alwaysmoto2019@gmail.com. Put t-shirt order in the subject line and the size of the shirt in the email, and we'll be in touch with a PayPal invoice and arranging the delivery details. All right, enough with this intro talk. Let's jump into the show here talking about the Slant Board guy and the AlwaysMoto inspection.
This is Derek Kelly, and you're listening to the AlwaysMoto podcast.
All right, guys and girls, let's get into this AlwaysMoto inspection. So it's the Slant Board guy, Slant Board. It's the original, or the OG Slant Board. Now, if you look on their website, that'll be in the show link notes. They have many different versions of this Slant Board, but I've got the original. It's just the generic, 30-degree angle board, grip tape all around. That's the one that we're reviewing. The other ones we haven't had work with, felt, used, etc. But I'm sure they're going to be as good as this one that we got here in the original version. They've since released some other things, and a different version of their Slant Board with some hooks on the side that they can utilize with some TheraBand type things, and they look really cool as well. But again, haven't used that. So this inspection for this AlwaysMoto podcast is around the OG board. Now, some background as to why this inspection and the next inspection, and guys and girls, if you can hear this little tap here in the background, unfortunately that's my sling and the little hook on my sling that keeps bouncing off my table. So I'll try and cut that down a little bit as we go through here, but that actually fits right into what we're talking about. So the reason for this board and this inspection, as many of you know that's been listening to the show over the last few months, back in July last year, I had a decent accident at Hattah Desert Race, which is a big open sand desert track here in Australia, in the southern parts of Australia, down in Victoria there. Had a big one, broke a lot of bones, lost a spleen, broke my hip, my collarbone, my shoulder blade, a couple of ribs. I'm pretty sure I broke a vertebrae as well, but they never got that actually x-rayed and stuff at the right time. So I think it had already healed by that point. But anyway, I digress on that one. But I definitely think I had that one as broken as well. What else? What else did I do? Oh, it turns out now since then, I don't know whether it was that accident or an earlier accident I had a year earlier or not, but I've had shoulder issues for a while. Turns out part of that we've now found out, I had a piece of bone floating around in my shoulder that was the broken collarbone side. So it could have been from that, could have been from earlier. But I also had the surgery recently, and that's why I'm wearing this sling that I was just talking about that's bouncing on the table. The sling is because I also found out that when they went in to take that piece of bone out of my shoulder, found that I had ruptured a bicep as well, which attaches up in your shoulder. There's two heads to it, but the one that I tore is attached to the labrum. So fantastic times for me lately anyway. But so this board itself was something that I went looking for during my rehab. I had hip surgery in July after the injury. They inserted some bolts and screws and plates to hold my hip together because I broke through the neck of the femur. During my recovery, probably about a month after I got home, so I was about 6 weeks post-injury, I was obviously walking and stuff at this point, and I was able to do multiple different aspects in the gym, but just very badly. Very limited, very bad technique, very hitchy, no smooth movements, lots of pain. Was doing crap jobs at squats basically, and that's what I was trying to get the leg to function. I had an aim at that point that at some point by the end of the year, I would need to have surgery again. And so with that surgery hanging around for the end of the year, I knew that I needed to get myself in as good a shape as possible going into that surgery so that I could come out as best as possible on the way out of that surgery. That's a general rule of thumb for anybody here listening about injuries and recovery. The better you go into a surgery in terms of your range of motion, your strength, your coordination, your ability to just perform a movement or a task. The better you can do that, the stronger you are at that, the easier you recover from that post-op surgery. So with that in mind, I started looking for a board. Now, with my backgrounds as well, and for those of you who don't realize, it's in the intro, but I am a physiotherapist. I'm a qualified physiotherapist, have been for over 10 years now. And before that, I actually have a degree in exercise and sports science, which I actually then utilized that training. I used to do some training type things and some health screening things that were all physical fitness. I used to actually work at Woolworths head office. They had a private gym for their executives, so their high level execs. All the guys and girls that were running their IT, their music departments, from Big W, all that sort of stuff. I got to train a lot of these guys and do health tests on these people. So I used to utilize that. So I've been exposed to lots of different equipment pieces over the years. And slant boards have been in a lot of these clinics and stuff that we've used for stretching positions, squat positions, but none of them have been super, good. I've known they existed. I also have my own gym at home that I train in, and you might have seen that in some of the shots and stuff that I put up on Instagram and whatnot. But I haven't had a slant board of my own. I've just utilized things in the gym badly to compensate for that particular task that I was trying to accomplish. So, but with this injury, I thought, look, I'm struggling. I know I need to get better at my squatting. The theory is that these slant boards assist you with doing that. I hadn't really tested it because I've never really been in that situation before where I was struggling with squat depth. Never had that problem until it broke my hip. Now, so I started thinking I need to make a board. Well, obviously that was not going to happen for me in the scenario I was in. My right hip was barely functioning. My left arm was barely functioning. I could barely stand up straight because of the spleen removal. There was no way I was getting on a power tool, cutting up plywood boards, drilling, screwing, all that sort of stuff. There was no way it was going to happen. In normal times, I would have done it myself. That's how I am. I'm a bit of a DIY guy. I built my own house, done my own renos, all that sort of stuff. So I can use a power tool. Don't think I can't. But at this scenario, at this point in time, there was no way it was going to happen safely. I was probably going to cut something else off that I shouldn't have and end up in more problems, in another hospital, another surgery, all that sort of good stuff. So I started looking around online to try and find something that would fit the need, that I could just purchase at a simple rate and, utilize in the gym quickly, get it, delivered within a few days and go from there and start using it and see if it could help me through a few different parts of this rehab process that I was going on. I stumbled across the Slant Board Guy website, and my initial thoughts was, that looks pretty cool, but damn, that's expensive. This OG Slant Board was $129.95 plus whatever the postage was at that point in time. And I was like, I'm a bit of a tired ass like that. $129 for a piece, couple of bits of timber. Didn't seem great at the surface. But when I looked around at the other options that were available, I didn't see anything that I liked. Nothing compared to the what this one visually looked like online, from in terms of just the angle, the build, and the grip type and the overall size. Excuse me, just got something caught in the throat. So I decided that was going to be the option. The other ones had like just strips of grip tape across them. They weren't as wide, so that your feet were going to potentially hang off them. The edges of it had like a step over, like an overhang for the edge of the board, or there was a step at the front where the board angled into the ground. It didn't actually go completely smooth through. I didn't like them, and the ones I'd used in the gyms and stuff previously were all similar like that, and I thought they were all a bit shit at that point in time. They tipped, they weren't stable. You didn't fit on them properly. You always felt like you were, 2 seconds away from falling over and smacking your head on something. So I liked the Slant Board Guy one. And I was like, right, I was about to pony up and buy it just because I wanted to try and make this rehab journey better. But then I had the epiphany, why not reach out for an AlwaysMoto inspection? And I'm glad I did. The guys at Slant Board and girls at Slant Board got back to me straight away and said they'd love it, they're in, sent me a board. Pop me on the affiliate program that you hear me talking about and plugging at the beginning and the ends of the shows, and that's going well as well. Now, it's about time that I finally got this up and running and the inspection done. So here we go. So that's the reason why I went to it. They sent me out the board, told them that I was needing it for the rehab and that I'd do an inspection, and then we'd see how we went from there. So we got the board. First things first, the box comes in. It's clearly labeled as a Slant Board Guy product. The packaging was awesome. Cut it open. There it is. It's beaut. It's lightweight. It's got grip tape all over it. It's just very simple design. Like it's a couple of pieces of timber. Painted black, so it's nice and sleek. The logo that they have on it is beaut. It's their own logo. It's printed into the grip tape, and the color schemes just look great. Now you can on that logo on top, you can get custom ones and get your own gym logo. I could have got AlwaysMoto popped on it. I didn't want to do that. I was in a hurry. I just wanted it, here now. They're done, ready to go. So I was quite happy just to get the Slant Board Guy logo popped on it. It's a 30-degree angle, as I mentioned earlier, that they work off. The whole thing, the whole top and back edge of it is covered in grip tape. There's not a single gap in it. It's like one piece. There's no way that it's peeling up at this point. I've had it now for a couple of months, been using it. My wife's been using it in the gym. The kids kick it around a bit and stand on it and think they're funny doing stuff in the gym. They're 8 and 6, so, they're not exactly using it correctly. But nothing has peeled up in the grip tape. It's stuck down so well. It's awesome. It's exactly like I mentioned, it's big enough, as in it's wide enough to fit 2 feet on, long enough to fit 2 feet on, and you don't feel like you're cramped. You've got plenty of space, even for a taller or a wider shouldered, bigger hipped person. There is plenty of room to still get your shoulder width stance on this board without any troubles. And even when you do that, if you get your feet towards the edges of the board, it's super stable. There is no tipping of this board. You can, obviously, if you stand right on the tippy toe edge and you push away from it, you can get it to tip. But if you're doing the correct sort of movement, both feet on, your whole foot on the board, and your force is going directly down through the board, there is no way this thing is going to tip, which is definitely different to the boards I've used in the past in the other clinics and the other gyms that I've had different things available to me in. It is a super sleek design. There has a little, it's all black, But on the little side pieces of the angle bits, there is just a little embedded logo in there that's not completely standing out, but it's just there. And it's just one of those sleek little nice touches to the product that makes it look and feel and just give off this high quality vibe. There is no sharp edges. There's no shoddy workmanship. Sometimes when you get these sorts of plywood board type, pieces, there's like a rough edge, or you could get splinters on it, or it's not painted and sealed properly. That is not the case. You turn this thing over, you turn it upside down, you grab the underside of it. It's all coated. It's all black coated. There is perfect smooth edges on it. There is no way you're getting a splinter off it unless you're licking it with your tongue at a funny angle and after you've probably had a go at it with a file. So it's fantastic in that sense. So it's a beaut piece of workmanship. Now, the other part that I liked about this is that there is no lip at the front. So what I mean by that is when you sit the board flat on the floor, the front edge where it comes down to the angle to meet the ground, there is no step. It is perfectly cut so that the board will sit flush into the floor. So you can sit with your toes just off the edge, toes all the way back onto the board. There's no step there for your toes to sort of get a dicky feel of, and makes you more stable and more confident in the board when you're doing your different movements. Now, the one part that I didn't like, and I mentioned this before, it was the price. It seemed steep when I looked at it on the website, but I thought about it afterwards and I've broken it down. So look at it this way. If you're going to build this board yourself, which a lot of people probably go, you just get a couple of bits of timber and whack one together. Just need a saw and some screws. Essentially, that's it. That is basically it. But break it down. It's going to take you about an hour to two from the time you walk down to the shed, open it up, get the materials out that you might have laying around. That's if you have them laying around. Cut the material, sand it down, join it together, paint it or coat it, stick the tape on it. There's 2 hours. Right, so let's budget, if you're even just at an average shoddy wage of $30 an hour, and look, that might be different for lots of people. That might be high, might be low, whatever. Let's just say $30 an hour. So there's $60 you've already spent if it takes you 2 hours. That's if you're quick on the tools. If you then have to buy a plywood board from Bunnings, a 12 mil sheet, that's 2400 by 12. Yes, you're going to have heaps of it left over, but it's $50 for that board from Bunnings. So we're up to $110. If you've got to buy a box of screws and nails to put that thing together, there's $3 to $5. To buy the grip tape, you're probably 10 to 15. So at a conservative number, I'm at $123 for the materials and my time. That $129 price now doesn't seem so bad. The fact that it just turned up in the mail, you open the box and away you go, seems really nice to me now. But the other part of this too is, if you've been listening to the show, there's an AlwaysMoto discount code. You just type AlwaysMoto in lowercase at the checkout and you get 10% off. So you're actually in front on that price now. So I actually think that this isn't as steep as it seemed initially when I broke it down that way. Let's talk about where this product shines and how to use it correctly. This is not the only piece of equipment that you will now do squats or lunges or calf raises on. You should only use this as a stepping tool to other movements or to retrain a movement to improve your technique or your depth at a different load at a different angle. It should not be the only way that you do your squat. It's designed to still have, you still need to do a variety of exercise movements and foot placements, but you can use it for pretty much every leg exercise that your foot is planted on the ground, and even the ones that aren't, for like a movement-based exercise where you would step onto the foot and you're going to have it land on the board. You could do it so it lands on the board because it's so stable, but also then you can change the angle that you land the board on. And if you check out Slant Board Guy's Instagram, which is literally just Slant Board Guy, at Slant Board Guy, you'll see plenty of people using the board in plenty of different ways that will give you heaps of ideas on how to use it. The limit on the exercises you can do on this thing are only limited by your imagination. So get to it and work with it. But the idea of this for me at this point in time is for depth and technique work and rehab work is where this thing really shines. And for me, it was the rehab that combined into the depth work. I was struggling to get beyond horizontal thighs in a squat when my feet were flat on the ground. Now, I could have put myself on those like most people do. They throw down a couple of weight plates, have their heel stand on the weight plates, and keep going. But for me, at this point in my life, when I was in the rehab process there, unstable, shoddy arm, shoddy leg, shoddy abs, I didn't want to fall over. So I wanted something stable, and this works much better. So then I was able to do, as soon as I got on this thing, I was able to squat way past the horizontal thighs. I was almost going straight to full depth without even changing anything. Just the angle at which I was standing with my feet made all the difference. That then translated, after I did that for about 2 weeks, that translated into my flat-footed squat being full depth all of a sudden as well. So the ability for me to then move the muscle all the way through the range at my knee and hip joints because of the angle of my feet meant that I could increase the strength in those, that then translated to a flat-based squat, which was perfect. It then also allowed me to do calf stretching and calf raises and elevated calf raises and lunges and all those things as well in exactly the same manner. And I've progressed all of those things. Now, what I now do, which I haven't been able to really get back to, just before my surgery, I was able to get to a point where I felt almost normal with my hip. I still had issues, and since they've taken out the plates and screws and all that good stuff that was in there, I've got a nice bucket full of metal that's sitting on my bench over here. Now that that's all out, my pain and problems have gone, but I'm only just able to start strengthening that again because I had to be on crutches for 6 weeks. And that was only 10 days ago that I've been able to get off those, so I'm not back to where I was. But what I was doing at the point before the surgery where I was feeling great and I utilized the board to those rehab and depth work things, I would still go back to it twice or so a week on varying days for different exercises to just retrain my technique and make sure that I was going full depth, full squat, and using things like kettlebells or dumbbells to utilize to hold weight on those tasks now to improve the technique under load and under full range. So it's a great piece of equipment to get those things sorted out and used in those ways. So would I buy one? Hell yes, I would buy one. Would I use my AlwaysMoto code? Of course I would. I'm a tight ass. I want to save some money. So I would use that as well. But when I'm there, this product was fantastic. I would be looking at the other boards now. They have a slight step board. They have a pyramid type board. They have the board that's the one with the hooks for the TheraBands, and you can also buy TheraBands to go with these boards as well. So I'd be checking out all the products from Slant Board Guy while I'm there. But make sure you use the code. If you do, make sure you use the link in the show notes to get to that point. But that's where we're at with this slant board. We're going to continue to use it. We're going to put up some videos from when I was just prior to that hip surgery of me using the board for lunges and squats. So keep an eye out on the Instagram stories for those. We'll be putting those up just to give you guys some ideas of what you can do with the board. And it's a nice way to just keep progressing your exercises. And what this translates to, guys and girls, is your ability to stand on your pegs and control the bike with your legs as you're standing on a straight, on a corner, on a jump, on any obstacle. It will improve your standing technique and your ability to maintain your standing technique and transition to and from standing. It'll be out of sight because your depth of range of movement on the board is what you need when you're on the bike. Your squat depth on a bike is more than just thighs to horizontal. And if you don't believe me, stand on your bike and squat down onto the seat until your bum hits the seat and have a look at the knee range of motion that's required. Every bike's slightly different because the triangle area is a different size on different bikes. Your seat might be higher or lower. You might be taller or shorter, but it's there. You need to go beyond full depth of the squat not full depth of the squat, beyond horizontal thigh depth for the movement on a bike to go from sitting to standing properly if your technique is on point. So check out Slant Board, guys and girls. That's our AlwaysMoto inspection for the Slant Board Guy Slant Board OG board.
Hi there, my name is Eldon Baker and I'm from the Baker's Factory and you're listening to AlwaysMoto.
All right, guys and girls, great show this week, a great inspection. We've got another inspection coming here very, very soon, and it will be on the Polar Grit X Pro. But for now, that was our inspection of the Slant Board Guy Slant Board. Thanks for listening, guys and girls. Don't forget to send us your t-shirt orders. Our email is alwaysmoto2019@gmail.com. Soon we'll have our website up and set up to purchase those shirts direct, but for now, it's via the email. Our website will be alwaysmoto.com. Follow us on our social medias for up-to-date info on all things injury and moto, and more content and more discount codes in our Instagram on all the inspections that we do. So search AlwaysMoto on your favorite social media app and then follow and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed, otherwise you'll miss out on this content. If your podcast app allows, please leave us a rating. I can't stress how important it is. I really, really, really want you to get me a couple of ratings left on these apps, people. So you listeners out there, as soon as this is over, go on into your app and leave us a rating. Please, please do so. Don't forget to check out all of our written content over on fullnoise.com.au and soon to be alwaysmoto.com. Now, this podcast will be linked from the from the Full Noise article, and the article will be linked from the podcast. So if you haven't read one or seen the other, listen to the other, or vice versa, do the opposite and do both, or one or the other, or both, whichever works for you. But that's it for another show. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Polar Australia and the Slant Board guy for the show support. Thanks to you for listening. Remember, you've got to be smooth to be fast, because if you're not, I'll probably be seeing you deep in the emergency department, maybe even the clinic, having strapping tape thrown wherever it sticks.